Breaking news as we come on the air. Human remains have been found off of Georgia Highway 280 in Wfxl County. Officials telling us tonight they believe the remains are that of Charles Grimsley Jr., who's been missing since August. No word on how the man died. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is now helping in that investigation.
Dad, I'm sitting here today in the U.S. Capitol talking to our elected professionals is proof that you made the right decision 40 years ago to leave the Soviet Union and come here to the United States of America in search of a better life for our family. Do not worry. I will be fine for telling the truth.
The National Security Council's top Ukraine expert testifying on Capitol Hill today. The House committee gathered evidence on the possible impeachment of President Trump and interrogated 4 Trump administration officials. Sinclair investigative reporter James Rosen has the new details.
Ambassador Kurt Volker, a former special envoy to Ukraine, and Tim Morrison, formerly the top Russia officer on the National Security Council, diverged in their testimony before the impeachment committee late Tuesday, differing in their assessments of President Trump's conduct in the now famous call of July 25th, when Mr. Trump asked Ukraine's president to investigate former Vice President Joe Biden as part of an apparent exchange for U.S. military aid.
I don't think that raising 2016 elections or Vice President Biden or these things I consider to be conspiracy theories, they're not things that we should be pursuing as part of our national security strategy with Ukraine.
Mr. Morrison, I want to turn our attention back to the July 25th call. You were in the room. Did anything concern you on the call?
No.
But you would agree, right, that asking a foreign government to investigate a domestic political rival is inappropriate, would you not?
It's not what we recommended the president discuss.
But Chairman Adam Schiff extracted a key admission from Morrison.
Nonetheless, this was the first and only time where you went from listening to a presidential call directly to the national security lawyer, is it not?
Yes, that's correct.
In a 4-hour morning session, an aide to Vice President Pence and an Army officer detailed to the NSC testified they believe the president's request of Ukraine represented a, quote, improper conflation of national security with partisan politics. President Trump himself accused the Democrats leading the inquiry of perpetrating a scam on the American people.
They're doing something that the founders never thought possible and the founders didn't want.
On Wednesday, the Intelligence Committee will hear from the biggest witness thus far, Gordon Sondland, the ambassador to the European Union, whom other witnesses have portrayed as working hand in glove with President Trump to influence the Ukrainian government. On Capitol Hill, James Rosen.
President Trump was on the defensive today after Democrats held those impeachment inquiry hearings as administration officials were testifying about allegations the president pressured Ukraine to dig up dirt on Joe Biden. President Trump fired back while speaking one-on-one with Sinclair's chief political correspondent, Scott Thuman. He joins us now. Scott, the president telling you these hearings are getting in the way of passing legislation.
Well, the president today angrily cited impeachment hearings for why laws aren't getting passed on Capitol Hill, specifically talking about a large trade agreement between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada. And he squarely laid the blame on Speaker Nancy Pelosi.
A lot of people on Capitol Hill will argue that they can walk and chew gum at the same time. As you know, you do, of course, have
She can't. She's not putting it up for a vote. Look, at some point, I'm going to lose Mexico. I'm going to lose Canada. They've been waiting. They're asking me, is that deal ever going to get approved? Put it up for a vote. She doesn't have to even talk to the Democrats. They're going to vote for it.
Senator Mitch McConnell has said that he doesn't see any way in which his chamber votes to remove you from office. Do you look at the Senate now as a safety net?
I agree with him because I did nothing wrong. I agree with Mitch. If Mitch said that, I think it's a great statement.
President Trump, though, confirming to me today that he is strongly considering submitting written testimony to answer questions in the impeachment inquiry. In Washington, I'm Scott Thuman.
Thanks to Scott for that report. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center on this Tuesday night. A chilly night, but tolerable. The one exception, Dublin. You have been different all day long down in Lawrence County. You're down to 39 right now. That's pretty incredible stuff. We'll call it the 40s for the rest of the region. So 47 right now in Macon, 46 in Dublin. So yeah, the 40s are pretty much the theme right now. Let's take you down to Dublin. Not only going to talk about them, we'll show it to you. Boy, it's a chilly ride along 441, but a clear sky and a calm wind, and for whatever reason, they've decided to really cool off quickly this evening. So generally speaking, I think most of us will stay in the 40s overnight. Dublin, you'll choose to be different tonight. So here's the school day forecast. Low 40s at the bus stop, low 60s by lunchtime, and mid 60s for the ride home with plenty of sunshine. All right, later in the half hour, we are tracking our next weather system, the timing and what it brings to the area. I've got an updated outlook for Thanksgiving, and this is something we haven't talked about in a while, a tropical update. Well, obviously, there's something to talk about because it's back in the headlines. We'll go over that, plus your 10-day forecast. That's still to come.
Upgrades, money spent, and final votes. Discussion among Make and Bib commissioners getting a little heated tonight. WGXA's Jayla Whitfield was there. Jayla, some of the talks focused on Rosa Parks Square. Now, these funds would be provided by the sale of the Willie Hill Annex building, and two commissioners were not on board.
Again, I'm for the project. I think it's worthy, and unfortunately, the cost is high.
It's hard for me to imagine $900,000 worth of improvements to Rosa Parks Square.
It will help to form the centerpiece of this area down here with the new hotels and the other things that are taking place. So I would just encourage us to go ahead and approve this.
And the things like this that we keep spending money on, we don't have it laid out for what it's going to be spent on. I can't vote for something for $900,000, almost $1 million, and not know what we're voting for.
Regardless of the controversy, the item passed. The Make and Bib Commission will support the Urban Development Authority with these improvements, costing about $900,000. Now, Valerie Wynn and Mallory Jones voted against the Rosa Parks renovations. Well, for 25 years, a Middle Georgia woman didn't know who her father was. In a story you'll only see here, how she was able to piece together the decades-old mystery.
So we've talked about this a few times, not knowing who my father is, and we're wanting to get married. It's every girl's dream to have, like, their father be the one to walk them down the aisle.
New tonight, a woman in Centerville didn't know who her biological father was for 25 years until she took a DNA test that her husband encouraged her to take. Nick Gibson joining us now in the studio. Nick, it took only a matter of weeks to piece together that decades-old mystery.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. The DNA test was taken through a 23andMe DNA kit. Now, Atkinson told me it only took 2 or 3 weeks for her to receive the results back.
Extremely shocked, like I was in tears.
For 25 years, Brittany Atkinson has not known her biological father. She hoped that one day she would finally meet him. So she took matters into her own hands and decided to take a 23andMe DNA test, and the results she received on her app blew her away.
I was just leaving work when I got the results, called my fiance, and I was like, "You're not going to believe this."
Atkinson was scrolling through the app after learning she found a match, making her journey to find her family one step closer.
Well, to my surprise, I had results of my father, aunts and uncles, cousins, everything from my father's side. Like, no one on my mom's side was on this app.
The 23andMe DNA kit led Atkinson to Chris Sobiak, who lives in Washington State.
I kind of always knew she was out there, but I wasn't sure. And so when I got an email from her saying, "Hey, I think you're my dad," it was surprising, but not super surprising.
With Atkinson and her father looking to meet very soon, Both tell me they are very excited for their first meeting in person. One would call it a long-awaited family reunion.
You know, a whole range of emotions, especially because I also grew up without a father and always wondered who he was, and so I knew what she had went through in life. And so I was super duper excited to have her find me.
Now, Atkinson also tells me she plans for her father to walk her down the aisle when she has her wedding. Coming up, I will have more reaction from her father. Reporting from the studio, I'm Nick Gibson.
Nick, thanks. And 26 million people and counting are turning to home DNA kits to dig into their family's histories and health. Tests are easy to use and relatively inexpensive, a popular gift that can be used to reveal your heritage. Well, the trend has generated heartwarming stories of reunited family members, but they also offer a genetic component, and sometimes the results can be scary. Brittany Knowlton of Texas says buyer beware after her and her husband were given false information from a third party. This third party revealed Knowlton had Lynch syndrome.
That was probably some of the most anxiety-ridden couple of weeks of my life.
Well, Knowlton had no idea and was preparing herself for a worst-case scenario. Then the comprehensive genetic test proved it was a false positive. Doctors say tests can have good information, but they're not perfect, and they're not an accurate diagnosis. Domestic violence hotlines receiving about 15 calls every minute. Hear from a Georgia woman whose daughter's life ended before anyone could make it to the phone. We continue to follow breaking news tonight. Human remains have been found off of Georgia Highway 280 in Wilcox County. Officials telling us they believe the remains are that of Charles Grimsley Jr., who's been missing since August. No word tonight on how the man died. The GBI is helping in that investigation. Happening now, the Monroe County Sheriff's Office Drug Unit taking out a search warrant to locate methamphetamine at a home on Boxankle Road. Deputies say they found meth and drug paraphernalia at the home, including in a room where a baby was sleeping. Deputies arrested 4 people at the scene, but say at the time, one person escaped through the back door. Deputies say Joshua Liggett has since been taken into custody. Well, there's a new anti-drug campaign in South Dakota. It's called Meth. We're on it. South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem says it's meant to bring awareness to the epidemic in her state, but the campaign's getting some backlash tonight, especially on social media, with some confused while others are all out mocking it. Governor Noem says she wanted this to be a bold campaign to get people talking about being part of the solution, not just the problem. The state spent about $500,000 on that campaign. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, nearly 20 people per minute are physically abused by an intimate partner. Camille Gale tells us the story of one woman whose physical abuse turned deadly and how her mother keeps her memory alive.
October 3rd, 2005.
The day Teresa Harris's life would change forever.
I got home, and about 10 o'clock that night, I called my daughter. Nothing unusual was going on. It was not a conversation that was memorable.
A normal routine that would be no more.
The next few moments of however much time went by were kind of like a blur.
Harris's daughter, 26-year-old Crystal Harris, stabbed to death by her boyfriend, 24-year-old Jimmy Lee Daniels Jr., who pled guilty to her murder.
She loved him, but they loved each other.
But it would be domestic violence disguised as love that would tear this family apart.
Choosing the wrong mate should not be a death sentence.
Originally from Macon, Crystal moved to Tifton to pursue a degree in nursing. That's when her mother says she met the man that would take her life.
I didn't know him. As many times as I talked to my daughter, no, I knew nothing about him.
That dreadful day 14 years ago is still playing in her mind like a broken record.
Every line of it is just, I can just relive the whole thing over and over again.
Causing her to question her faith.
You stood back and did nothing while my daughter was being stabbed to death. Why did you do that?
So now Harris takes her questions to the streets of Macon. Each year she hosts Crystal's Call, a walk to raise awareness for domestic violence and, more importantly, keep her daughter's memory alive.
We do the walk because I don't want any parent to go through what I go through. And I certainly don't want any parent to go through what I go through and I wake up and read about it and say, maybe if I had done something, they would not be going through this now.
A loyal participant in the walk is Macon's Judicial Circuit District Attorney David Cook.
It's been the focus of my entire career, helping the most vulnerable, prosecuting crimes against women and children. So really that's been the focus of my career for over 20 years.
Cook says walks just like this one is a way to keep the conversation going about domestic violence.
This is something that we need to address and that we need to keep our domestic violence shelters well funded so that they can continue to do the work that they do.
Because Harris says domestic violence can strike at any time.
Domestic violence is a true nonpartisan. Doesn't care how much money you make. It doesn't care what color you are. Doesn't care where you live. It will strike anywhere, anybody, at any time. It does not care.
In Macon, Camille Gale.
Everybody should be considered.
Well, Daniels is currently serving a life sentence in a Georgia prison.
Current time 10:19. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. More quiet weather for the next few days. So tonight it gives us a chance to focus on what's to come. We're tracking our next weather maker, and the timing right here on the graphic, Saturday. Wet weekend, at least the first half. The back half looks nice, but it will be cooler. Here's what's on the map. We've got a cold front that'll sneak in from the west. At this point, it looks to bring rain on Saturday. We are not including thunderstorms in the forecast. Could that change between now and then? Sure, it's certainly possible. But based on what we see right now, it looks like things will be pretty stable, so we'll just call it plain old-fashioned rain on Saturday. Now, it's called a cold front for a reason. On the backside, it will be colder, and so that'll mean cooler weather for Sunday into Monday. By Monday morning, we'll be waking back up to the 30s across the region. So let's talk about how much rain this system brings. It's no secret, we've had drought conditions recently, right? So we could use a little bit of rain. This is not going to be a monumental rainmaker. In fact, in middle Georgia, anywhere from 1/4 to 1/2 inch of rain. Closer to 1/2 inch north of Macon, closer to 1/4 of an inch south of Macon. In southwest Georgia, it's a similar story. Don't expect a big soaking. I think on average about 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch of rain. So just a little bit of rain on Saturday, not much in the way of heavy rain, no thunderstorms expected. The bigger story I think with this weather system is the cool down that would come in on Sunday and Monday. Now once we get through the weekend, then we'll shift our focus to Thanksgiving. And tonight I've got the national maps because not all of you are staying local, right? Some of you planning to travel across the country. So this is Wednesday's national map, the day before Thanksgiving, an extremely busy travel day. And on Wednesday, we are going to have a pretty impressive storm system coming through the eastern third of the country. So that'll mean rain in middle and southwest Georgia the day before Thanksgiving. Looks like a big swath of snow from International Falls down to Kansas City. Some big cities impacted there, so now we got to start thinking about airport delays. Same goes for the Pacific Northwest on Wednesday, looking like an Intermountain West snow event. Then we go into Thanksgiving Day. Our East Coast weather system moves off the East Coast, so a little bit of leftover snow in the Appalachians, but most of the eastern half of the country very quiet on Thanksgiving Day, with quite a bit of snow lingering for Denver, Salt Lake City, and up to Billings. So snowy Thanksgiving Day out west, pretty tranquil weather for the eastern half of the country. Now look, this is 8-9 days away, right? So things can shift a little bit, but the general theme is there and it's been pretty consistent, but you know our team will be keeping a close eye on it. All right, let's break down the 10-day forecast. Up first is middle Georgia, 66 for your Wednesday with plenty of sunshine, back to 70 on Friday. There's the wet weather on Saturday, followed by the cool down Sunday and Monday. Then rain for the middle of next week, Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday looking dry right now. Let's go to southwest Georgia. We'll be in the 70s by Thursday into Friday. Look at that 75 Saturday as rain pushes through the area. Cooler Sunday, Monday. Back to 70 next Tuesday. Then we'll have the rain the day before Thanksgiving. But right now, Thanksgiving Day and Black Friday looking pretty nice with highs in the 60s. We've got more news and weather coming up after this. Stick around.
A witness in the impeachment inquiry says if he knew there was a push to investigate the Bidens, he would have objected. I'm Ray Bogan on Capitol Hill with a look at a long day of public hearings coming up.
Developing now at 1024, Atlanta-based Chick-fil-A making some changes as it expands across the country. Fox's Grady Trimble has more on why the fast food favorite is facing heat over donations yet again.
It's something that people were probably waiting for the longest time. Chick-fil-A takes a stand. The fast food chain will stop donating to specific organizations that have Christian ties, but also anti-LGBT views, including the Salvation Army and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Chick-fil-A has come under fire for almost a decade for supporting these and other organizations. Protesters have staged boycotts against the company, and they've even blocked it from building new restaurants in certain cities. Chick-fil-A's first location in the UK shuttered in just 1 week after pressure from protesters.
It's good to give to positive organizations and not necessarily give to organizations that might spread any ill will.
The company says it made multi-year commitments to both the Salvation Army and the Wfxl. It fulfilled those commitments, it says, and now it's cutting ties. Chick-fil-A goes on to say its foundation will no longer make multi-year commitments and will reassess its philanthropic partnerships annually to allow maximum impact. The company says instead it's now going to focus its donations on supporting education, fighting homelessness, and fighting hunger. It's already committed $9 million in donations to those causes in 2020. Chick-fil-A says it could still donate to faith-based organizations, but it'll reevaluate whether to do so and which organizations it's donating to each year. In Chicago, Grady Trimble, Fox Business.
Current time 10:26. Here's something we haven't talked about in a while, the Atlantic hurricane season. You know, when that first wave of cold weather comes in, we kind of shove hurricane season to the side. You forget about it. But after all, hurricane season isn't over yet. It runs to November 30th. So this is a chart plotting out start to finish a typical Atlantic hurricane season. You spend several months climbing up the mountain, then you peak at September 10th. Then you spend a couple of months coming down the mountain, and here we are almost at the base of the mountain. So hurricane season is almost over. But I say almost. You can get storms to develop in November. In fact, based on climatology, 5% of all named storms have developed in the month of November. It's the fewest, but it's not zero. So that's my segue to this. Say hello to Tropical Storm Sebastian. Winds are at 45, gusting to 60 miles per hour, the center of circulation northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. So you're saying, oh my gosh, here we are in mid-November and we've got a tropical storm to worry about. Well, the good news is we really don't need to worry about it. Here's the forecast cone. Over the next 24 to 36 hours, it'll make more of a northerly and then a northeasterly turn. It will become a remnant low, so it's going to lose its tropical characteristics by Thursday, but still a big wind maker. By Thursday, winds are still at 65 miles per hour. So the concern for shipping channels is there, and also the fishes. They'll have to watch out for some rough seas as well. So right now, hurricane season almost over, and while there is a storm out there, we don't necessarily need to worry about it. Aaron?
All right, thanks, Jeff. Decades-old cold cases now solved. Straight ahead, how detectives used a spoon to identify the suspect. Continuing coverage at 10:30, 4 more witnesses testified publicly as part of the House impeachment inquiry into President Trump. It started this morning with Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman and aide to Vice President Mike Pence, Jennifer Williams, who said President Trump's July 25th call was improper and unusual. Well, it went into tonight with 2 more witnesses. Ray Bogan is on Capitol Hill tonight with more. Ray, good evening.
3 of the 4 witnesses who testified were on President Trump's July 25th Ukraine call, saying parts of that call were improper.
Ambassador Volker, have you ever seen military aid held up because the president wanted his rival investigated?
No, I have not seen that.
Have you ever seen that, Mr. Morrison?
No, Chairman.
Committee Chairman Adam Schiff hit back against Republicans who said the hearings were a flop. But Congressman Jim Jordan criticized Democrats.
You two guys who are here telling it straight, you've both decided you're going to step out of government because of what these guys are doing.
Former NSC official Tim Morrison, however, warned both parties about paralyzing partisanship.
I understand the gravity of these proceedings, but I beg you not to lose sight of the military conflict underway in eastern Ukraine today.
Special Envoy to Ukraine Kurt Volker says he thought an investigation into the Bidens and gas company Burisma were distinct. He says an investigation into Burisma itself would be appropriate, but not the Bidens.
I think the allegations against Vice President Biden are self-serving and not credible.
Volker says he now sees why some thought the investigations were one and the same.
Had I done so, I would have raised my own objections.
President Trump says the hearings are a scam by Democrats.
They're using this impeachment hoax for their own political gain. to try and damage the Republican Party and damage the president.
There will be 2 more sessions of public testimony Wednesday. It starts with EU Ambassador Gordon Sondland, who will be asked about his comments regarding President Trump's desire for an investigation into the Bidens. On Capitol Hill, Ray Bogan. Aaron, back to you.
All right, Ray Bogan in our nation's capital tonight. Ray, thanks. And as you mentioned, tomorrow we'll hear testimony from Laura Cooper, the Pentagon's Deputy Assistant Secretary for Russia, Ukraine, and Eurasia. David Hale, a top State Department official, will also testify. The White House's former Russia expert Fiona Hill rounds out the week of testimony on Thursday. As Atlanta prepares to host the next Democratic presidential debate tomorrow night, Democrat Stacey Abrams, who narrowly lost last year's Georgia governor's race, is warning about voter suppression. Democrats have suggested that Abrams lost the 2018 governor's election because of voter suppression, despite record voter turnout. Republican officials have denied suppressing votes.
Good evening, everyone. Jeff Cox with you in the Skywatch Weather Center. 10:33 the current time. A chilly night shaping up across middle and southwest Georgia. Latest numbers across the mid-state. Just about everyone is in the mid-40s. We've documented Dublin trying to be the outlier tonight already at 39. I think that'll be the exception tonight. Everyone should generally stay in the low 40s by tomorrow morning. Here's the school day forecast for middle Georgia. There you have it. Low 40s at the bus stop with a clear sky. Should add about 20 by lunchtime. And then we expect the mid-60s by the ride home, again with a sun-filled afternoon. In southwest Georgia, a mix of 40s and 50s. We've got 48 here in Albany. Just up the road in Leesburg, it's 51. 51 on the map in Ashburn. We'll drop it to 50 in Nashville. One of our cool spots, though, Blakely, all the way towards the Alabama line, already down to 43 at this hour. School day forecast in southwest Georgia should be in the mid-40s at the bus stop, low 60s by lunchtime, and mid to upper 60s for the ride home. Another afternoon filled with sunshine. So quiet weather now, but we're already tracking our next weather system. I'll have the timing and what you can expect. Also have your Thanksgiving outlook. We'll look at the day before, Thanksgiving Day, and Black Friday as well. Plus your tropical update. We do have a new tropical storm to track. That plus the 10-day forecast. It's coming up in just a few minutes.
All right, Jeff, thanks. We are monitoring a developing story out of Augusta tonight. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office is currently on the scene of a shooting that involved a deputy, and that is according to the Sheriff's Office. Our Fox affiliate there says the deputy and the suspect have been taken to a hospital. While they have not confirmed the deputy has died, the Sheriff's Office has changed its Facebook cover photo to a badge with a blue band across it. That's often a sign that a law enforcement officer has died. The suspect was conscious when taken to the hospital. That shooting happened during a confrontation in a drug deal, according to the Sheriff's Office. A woman in Centerville didn't know who her biological father was for 25 years until she took a DNA test that her husband encouraged her to take. Nick Gitson joining us live in the control room tonight. Nick, it took a matter of just weeks to really piece together that decades-old mystery there.
Yeah, that's right, Aaron. Brittany Atkinson did take that DNA test, and she found out that Christopher Sokobiak was actually her biological father. Now, I spoke with Sokobiak today. He lives in Washington State. Now, he tells me the first couple of things that him and also his daughter are going to do when they meet.
A lot of talking, sitting and snuggling, giving her big hugs and kisses, and just kind of talking more. I mean, we've been in contact a lot and talked about a few things here and there, but it's always different when you're face to face.
Now, Atkinson also tells me that she plans to meet her father in February, either in Florida or Washington State. Now, once again, all of this was taken off of a 23andMe DNA test. Reporting from the control room, I'm Nick Gibson.
Nick, thanks. Not only did DNA bring a family together, it helped several victims get justice in California. The first attack happened in May of 1997. A 41-year-old woman walking home from a public transit station was dragged to a field and sexually assaulted. 4 months later, after that attack, another woman was confronted while walking near a high school. Police say DNA testing showed that the same man was responsible for both attacks. Police began working with DNA technology company Gene by Gene, and investigators narrowed the suspect list to one man.
Watched him dispose of a spoon that he had recently eaten off of, a plastic spoon. The detectives collected it.
And police say they secretly watched him at an ice cream shop and then made their move to take him into custody. A teenager is in custody in Gainesville, Georgia, accused of planning an attack on a historically black church. Police say the 16-year-old had been planning it for weeks. Details tonight from Nick Valencia.
Police say the 16-year-old girl took significant steps in planning her attack, which was in the works for at least 2 weeks. They say that she went so far as to show up here at the church armed with butcher knives with the intent of carrying out a knife attack on a small group of black parishioners. But when she arrived, there was no one here. It was on Friday that an alert student at Gainesville High School overheard the girl's plans on the attack and notified a school resource officer who called police, and the girl was taken into custody. Earlier at a press conference, the police chief here in Gainesville was clear and direct and called the girl a racist.
As we worked through this, we found out that this juvenile was planning an attack on Bethel AME Church and had taken significant steps towards making that attack happen.
The police chief went on to say that Gainesville is a majority-minority community, and that's a good thing. The girl is in custody and is cooperating with authorities, and at this point, they believe that she acted alone, though they say that tips are still coming in. The girl is being charged with criminal intent to commit murder, though authorities are still considering on whether or not to charge her as an adult. Nick Valencia, CNN, Gainesville, Georgia.
Reports of measles across the state continue to climb. What doctors say could happen if it goes untreated. "15 confirmed cases of measles reported in Georgia so far this year, and because of that, health officials want to make sure people know the risks. Ariel Mallory spoke with an employee from one Southwest Georgia health department and found out why they say it's so important to be vaccinated.
Vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate.
Beverly Reed is the general clinic supervisor at the Dougherty County Health Department. She says they have given out 379 vaccinations to the measles so far this year.
60 of those have been adults, okay, but the rest have been children getting their MMRs and MMVs at the appropriate age that they're supposed to get them.
Although no cases of the measles have been confirmed here in Southwest Georgia, all the cases have been reported in the metro Atlanta area. But officials still want people to know their risks if they choose not to be vaccinated.
It's interesting to note that all of our cases of measles in the state of Georgia have been in patients who were not vaccinated.
Dr. Charles Ruiz says the measles vaccination is effective 98 to 99% of the time, but if untreated can lead to much worse.
But in some cases, people can catch pneumonia. The pneumonia can be fatal. It can affect the nervous system and can cause permanent problems, including meningitis.
Beverly Reed says in the event that a case may be reported, there are protocols already in place to ensure the disease is contained.
Definitely need to contact a healthcare facility or their doctor. For us, should someone present at our window and they are suspicious, we have a whole protocol in place where we isolate that person, we assess the symptoms, and we have folks that we notify immediately, even if it's a suspicion.
Okay. Well, we pretty much covered it. Early symptoms can include cough, fever, red eyes, and a rash of tiny red spots. If you feel you may be experiencing early signs of the measles, contact your local doctor right away. Reporting in Albany, I'm Ariel Mallory.
Sexually transmitted diseases soaring throughout Georgia. For students who attend an institution in the Dougherty County school system, for example, health professionals are providing sex education courses and events to ensure students in the affected age group can be knowledgeable and prepared to make healthy decisions for their body.
Our school system is very supportive and very aware of the problem that exists in our community as related to sexually transmitted diseases. Our goal is to prevent them from getting sick or contracting these illnesses. So we want them to be aware of that these illnesses are out there, these diseases are out there, so that they can protect themselves.
Health officials say the most affected age group is between 15 and 24. Avoiding another government shutdown, the bill passed today to prevent that from happening, and why it's not a done deal just yet. Breaking news at 10:45. After a report of an alleged kidnapping attempt, the Albany Police Department has said that claim was false. Ariel Mallory spoke with officials tonight and joins us live now with an update. Ariel.
Now, the Albany Police Department did release a statement just a few moments ago in regards to an alleged abduction attempt that took place. Now, they would like to say that after speaking with witnesses and questioning that the claim was false. Now, they do say that this is still an ongoing investigation. We want to take you to some photos of a white van that the Albany Police Department did release. They say that this remains an ongoing investigation. The photos that they retrieved are from store surveillance video. They are asking that the people, if you do recognize the pictures of the van, that they do ask you to contact the Albany Police Department, as they are wanting to question the driver to get their side of the story as well. The Albany Police Department did extend a thank you to anyone in the community that has helped in searching for this boy. They do say that this is a teaching moment and to please use this time to talk with your children the importance of reporting useful and factual information to the police. Reporting live in Albany, I'm Ariel Mallory.
Ariel, thanks for the update. Also developing now, 14 suspects are facing assault charges after reportedly attacking elementary school students on a school bus in Georgia. Investigators say the young attackers stormed the bus into Cobb County yesterday. The school district says more than one student was attacked. One was injured so seriously, the child was taken to a hospital.
I have a small daughter, and I can't even imagine that happening to her.
It's ridiculous. They got to get it under control. They need more safety patrols. They need something.
Police arrested an 18-year-old non-student, a high school student, and 2 middle school students on assault charges.
The yeas are 231, the nays are 192. The motion is adopted without objection. A motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
The House passing a short-term spending bill to avoid a government shutdown. Lawmakers have until December 20th to agree on spending bills to keep the federal government funded, but it's not a done deal just yet. The Senate will need to look at it next, and then it'll head to the president's desk. A member of the House Appropriations Committee says they need the extra time to come to a bipartisan agreement on spending. Charges for the guards who were supposed to be watching financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a Manhattan jail. Well, Epstein ended up dead. The coroner says suicide, but others suspect foul play. As Fox's Brian Yennis reports, now the guards themselves are looking at prison time.
This morning, 2 correctional officers tasked with guarding Jeffrey Epstein surrendered to the FBI, charged with 1 count of conspiracy for working together in a cover-up and 5 counts of falsifying records. New York federal prosecutors allege both Tova Noel and Michael Thomas falsified documents indicating they were checking on prisoners in the special housing unit of the Metropolitan Correctional Center, including Epstein, every 30 minutes as mandated, when in reality, they were not. In fact, according to the indictment, the guards never checked on Epstein once in the 8 hours between 10:30 p.m. and 6:30 a.m. when Epstein's body was discovered in his cell with a noose around his neck. Instead of doing their jobs, prosecutors say the guards appeared to be asleep for approximately 2 hours, sat at their desk, browsed the internet for furniture sales and benefit websites, and moved around the common area, while Epstein was inside his cell just about 15 feet from the guards' desks. A lawyer for one of the guards says they are being, quote, scapegoated.
This incident was a black eye on the entire Bureau of Prisons.
Meantime, today, the director of the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Dr. Kathleen Hawk Sawyer, was grilled on Capitol Hill.
Has anybody at BOP yet been disciplined or terminated for their conduct that led to the Jeffrey Epstein death?
We're still waiting for the conclusion of the investigation, Senator. We have some bad staff. We want rid of those bad staff who don't do their job. We want them gone one way or another, either by prosecution or by termination.
Director Sawyer also confirmed the criminal investigation into Epstein's death is ongoing.
If the FBI is involved, then they are looking at criminal enterprise, yes.
The director said she has not seen any evidence that indicates Epstein was murdered. Underscoring that point, prosecutors revealed today video surveillance cameras in the MCC captured no one entering Epstein's cell the night he died. In New York, Brian Yennis, Fox News.
Current time 10:50, another tranquil day of weather across middle and southwest Georgia, and we'll have a few more of those as we finish out the week. So tonight, with a quiet weather pattern in place, it gives us a chance to focus on your next weather maker, and the timing on that is Saturday. I know, a weather system coming in on the weekend, and at that, it's going to be a cold front, which means, yes, it will have rain. So as the cold front comes in on Saturday, there will be warmer weather ahead of it, so Friday into Saturday look very mild with 70s expected. Then during the day Saturday, we'll get the rain to come through with this cold front. At this point, no thunderstorms expected. It just doesn't look like we've got enough instability to work with, so we are leaving it as plain old-fashioned rain on Saturday. Well, we call it a cold front for a reason, so behind it, temperatures will drop noticeably for Sunday and Monday. Now, it is not an Arctic blast, but by Monday morning, we'll see temperatures drop back into the 30s, and it will have been some time that we had seen the 30s by the time we get there. Now, how much rain is this going to bring to the region? Remember, we are still in a drought in parts of middle and southwest Georgia. Not as bad as it once was, but we still need some rain. This is not going to be a big rain maker. So here's the potential rain for the next 7 days, which really encompasses the Saturday event. And you can see if we draw a line from Thomaston to Macon to Sandersville, along and north of that line, that's where the highest totals are. Generally speaking, 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of rain in middle Georgia with higher totals north of Macon. Let's go to southwest Georgia as the data populates here. You can see we're all shaded in green, so we all get some type of rain. Looks like, generally speaking, 1/10 to a 1/4 of an inch of rain. So again, not a monumental rainmaker, no thunderstorms. The bigger story with Saturday's system, it'll bring a cool down for Sunday and Monday. Let's look ahead to the middle of next week, our Thanksgiving travel map. So this represents the forecast map for Wednesday, one of the busiest travel days of the year. And this is a big system in the eastern half of the country that will cause some travel delays. So based on what we know right now, there will be a snowmaking part of this system from Missouri up north, and then we'll have rain sweeping through the southeast. It will be a wet Wednesday in middle and southwest Georgia. Then as we transition to Thanksgiving Day, that system moves off the east coast. So Thanksgiving Day looks pretty nice here in Georgia. We'll have snow up into the higher elevations of the Appalachians, and then the snow continues in the upper Rockies as well. All right, let's bring it home with the 10-day forecast here in middle Georgia. 60s turn to 70 by Friday, rain on Saturday, rain next Wednesday, but a dry Thanksgiving and Black Friday. In southwest Georgia, pretty similar forecast, just a bit warmer. 75 on Saturday, back to 61 Sunday, with rain the day before Thanksgiving. We've got more news and weather coming up after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Current time is 10:55. For the first time in a few weeks, tonight we're talking about hurricane season. After all, it's not over just yet. It ends November 30th. Here's a snapshot of the season, essentially day by day. And you can see starting in August, we start that big climb up the mountain. We peak around September 10th. Then we spend the month of October coming down the mountain. And here we are towards the end of November. The season is almost over, so we're almost at the base of the mountain. But we're not quite there yet, and that means hurricane season isn't over yet. In fact, the month of November accounts for 5% of all named storms. While it is the month with the fewest storms expected, it is not zero, and so we always have to keep an eye on it. That is my segue to this map. We are tracking tonight Tropical Storm Sebastian, the S storm. We've almost made it through the alphabet. It's been several years since we've done that. Tonight, the winds with Sebastian are at 45, gusting to 60, the center of circulation northeast of San Juan, Puerto Rico. The good news is we really don't need to worry about it. In fact, it makes a turn north during the day tomorrow, then northeast into Thursday, and by that point, it's a wind maker, but no longer has tropical characteristics. So the biggest concern, all the ships out in the Atlantic, they'll have to go around Sebastian in the coming days. Aaron?
Finally tonight, 2 celebrations in one as a Georgia police officer proposed to his girlfriend at his graduation. Officer Quandre Walker graduated from the DeKalb County's 119th Police Academy. When the officers did an about-face, they were holding signs, popping the question in front of family and friends. The crowd went wild, and of course, she said yes. Would have been a little awkward if she did not say yes.
Right?
Yeah. But,
would they have arrested her? Just go away.
Yeah. That's all the time we have on this Tuesday evening. As always, thank you so much for watching.
Daily Mail is coming up next. Have a great night.